I now call on Tom Arthur. Up to 11 minutes, Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And can I begin for thanking the committee for their production of this very helpful and considered report, and join members of the committee in thanking those who gave evidence to the committee and helped to facilitate visits. The committee's report highlights many examples of progress, both in our town centres and our approach to retail policy, and in how these interact, and complements our work to deliver both the Town Centre Action Plan and the retail strategy. I agree with the committee that a strategic approach to towns and retail focused on sustained long-term actions is required to maximise the contribution they can and must play to achieving the vision set out in our new national strategy for economic transformation. Transforming our towns and the retail economy is an exciting opportunity to work collaboratively towards the shared purpose of a sustainable wellbeing economy which supports and connects people and places. On town centres, we work collaboratively with communities, local government, third and private sector to deliver our shared vision and have strong partnerships with local government. These include the newly established Town Centre Action Plan Forum I co-chair with COSLA. A cross-sectoral approach helps coordinate work in my portfolio, across government and beyond, and I am encouraged to see our place-based and community investment programmes making a difference. Disappointingly, this work is now being made more challenging by the UK Government's approach to levelling up, which is not aligned with our policy framework. Notwithstanding this, we can and must celebrate the real and sustained progress we have achieved and continue to double down on this through new policy frameworks, including NPF4, the new National Strategy for Economic Transformation, climate action towns and community wealth building. Presiding Officer, getting the right change, our retail strategy for Scotland, sets out our vision for a strong, prosperous, vibrant and future-proofed retail sector. It makes it clear that retail matters as a contributor to economic prosperity in Scotland, part of our everyday experience and a foundation stone of our economy. Retail is the largest private sector employer in Scotland, currently employing over 260,000 people in Scotland, an increase of 8.3% on the previous year. Shops and retailers support local communities, attract people into our towns and cities, utilise local supply chains, offer fulfilling employment and support other sectors. Delivery of the retail strategy is now well underway, and the newly established Retail Industry Leadership Group, which I co-chair with Andrew Murphy from John Lewis, is in place to ensure we take the right strategic approach. Certainly.
Claire Baker.
Thank you. I did just make a brief reference to the need to take a gendered approach to this issue. The committee heard evidence, particularly from Close the Gap, that the jobs within retail that will reduce are the ones that are traditionally female jobs, and the jobs that will increase are traditionally male jobs. Will the leadership group be looking at this issue and recognising where we need to focus our skills development work?
Minister.
I'm happy to confirm to Claire Baker that that is the case, both in what we do with regards to looking at our skills, but also within our Fair Work Agreement that we are seeking to develop through the Retail Industry Leadership Group. That is something that is very important and is something that is consistent with our broader economic objectives. Presiding Officer, our policy landscape does provide key enablers of work on town centres and retail. I'm going to touch upon a few just now. NPF4, formally adopted earlier this month, is a fresh start for planning and places our journey to net zero and neighbourhood renewal at its core. For town centres and retail, this means prioritising regeneration of town centres and reuse of vacant and derelict land, while discouraging some types of development, including out-of-town retail. Our reform of permitted development rights gives a clear signal to be welcoming to investors and to the people who will live, support and enjoy our towns, and it empowers planners to be bold and courageous in pursuing opportunities for thriving communities. Happy to give way.
Daniel Johnson.
I'm very grateful to the Minister for giving way. I was also wondering if you could elaborate on the decision from the Scottish Government not to put the town centre first principle in NPF 4. And I was also wondering if you might speak to the point around change of use. So sometimes it's very easy to change commercial premises into residential, and that can sometimes detract from the critical mass in high streets.
Minister.
I'm grateful to Mr Johnson for his intervention. As we set out within NPF 4, we have sought to get a policy that is consistent with how the planning system operates. But what I would always urge in reading any planning document, including NPF 4, is to read the document in the round. There are 33 separate policies, and it is, of course, for individual decision makers in planning matters ultimately to determine whether or not an application for a development accords with the development plan and whether or not material considerations are a factor. With regards to change of use, in our consultation, we did explore the issue of using PD rights to allow for conversions to residential. However, that was something that we were cautious about pursuing and indeed will not be taking forward, because fundamentally, in my view and view of the government, is that in looking at how we plan for residential property, it is important that that still goes through the planning system to provide safety and assurance. Indeed, there have been examples of other jurisdictions exploring PD rights for example, commercial to residential, and they have had outcomes that are not consistent with the aspirations that we would wish to see. I also want to touch, Presiding Officer, on our community wealth building, because through community wealth building legislation, our aim is to create a fairer and more prosperous society, enabling more people to benefit directly from the wealth generated by local communities and transform what our economy is for and how it operates. Community wealth building will enable communities to take more control of their local economies and develop these using their assets in line with their needs and interests. It's important to acknowledge, Presiding Officer, that this is a difficult time for many retail businesses. The cost crisis and record high inflation have brought a real pressure on top of the COVID crisis. This squeeze has also been felt in households, so it is understandable why some shops are struggling. Larger retailers are more able to respond, and some discount stores are reporting record sales as customers search out savings and supermarkets are price matching their goods. But reducing or matching prices isn't always an option, and I read with concern of companies of established firms such as Paperchase and M&Co, highlighted by Claire Baker, staples of the high street in Scotland, who are closing. And as someone within M&Co in my own constituency, I am aware of the impact that this will have. Whilst it is neither the role of or within the gift of government to shore up these businesses, no matter how painful that might feel to those affected, we do have a role in helping those affected and in helping the retail sector evolve to meet changing consumer demand. Our aspiration for Scotland are set in our economic prospectus, with a fiscal policy that supports improved economic competitiveness and resilience, underpinned by the principles of fiscal sustainability, will enable the creation of an economy that works better for everyone who does business in Scotland, including retailers of the length and breadth of the country. Taxation has been touched on, and taxation, of course, affects town centres and retail as it affects us all. And I am pleased that the committee recognised the reforms underway on business rates, but acknowledged their continued wider concerns. And I would welcome the committee's and the Parliament's support to address these wider issues, for example, on VAT, and the wider issue of potential devolution of VAT. The retail landscape is ever-changing, and competition, I'm afraid I've given to already, and I do need to make some progress. I'll try and pick up any points in my closing remark. The retail landscape, of course, is ever-changing, and competition from online retail has an impact. Whilst online retail sales have fallen every month since April 2021 from a high of 35% in 2020, they remain 17% higher than in 2019. That's 17% more spending online that otherwise would have been spent in shops. Our retail business base is made up of 96% micro or small businesses. These small, often independent shops play a vital role in shaping the character and attractiveness of high streets and offer a different customer experience to that of the larger retailers. But they also have fewer resources available and need support to build an online presence. The Government's new National Strategy for Economic Transformation recognises that digital will increasingly impact on the way we live our lives. Digital investment and skills are also vital for a diverse array of town centre uses, as noted in our Town Centre Action Plan. We are looking at the best way forward for digital support, building on earlier programmes. and also working with the Business Support Partnership to collaborate to deliver a single joined-up national service for business support. As has been touched on, an independent review of the skills delivery landscape is underway and will recommend an approach to drive forward our ambitions for a skilled workforce as set out in the National Strategy for Economic Transformation. The Retail Industry Leadership Group will consider the recommendations of the review and the opportunities that are forced to the retail sector, and I would be happy to provide an update to the committee on this in due course. I would like to close with some examples of successes on the ground that supports both town centres and retail. And I will just focus on a couple of examples, Presiding Officer. I was hugely impressed by the strategic approach to investment in Galashiels, with the Great Tapestry Visitor Centre forming a focal point, and also the Mid-Steeple Quarter project in Dumfries, where the Scottish Government's Regeneration Capital Grant Fund is helping to deliver wider plans to repurpose the town centre as a fully refurbished contemporary living, working, socialising, learning and enterprising quarter. Both these projects align strongly with my ambitions to support community wealth building and create places where the community can shape its own future. Interventions and investments to support local businesses and decisions have been taken for the benefit of all. Supporting our towns and the retail sector across Scotland is a key priority for the Scottish Government. I welcome the input of the committee and I look forward to hearing the views of members from across Parliament this afternoon. Thank you.